Give me that dope. Give me that motherfucking dope. Pull that motherfucker. Pull this motherfucker over. Pull that motherfucker over. Pull that motherfucker over. I ain't gonna tell you no more. Pull that motherfucker over. Alright, bet. I tell you, pussy ass nigga, pull that motherfucker over, man. Pull that motherfucker over. It's Chicago.
And so I knew then, I said, this forest is kind of special, but I had it in my mind, but I didn't tell nobody that was me. And everyone knew. Steve turned down an opportunity for the hottest folk to be drafted into baseball. He said, Mama, he said, we need the money. I said, look, your education is more important. I said, we struggling now. I said, we're not going to be always be down, right? And I said, but you ain't got, you can't miss it. So instead, he headed to Alcorn State University, following his brothers Fred and Ted, and on the gridiron, when they were saying, and in high school, I said, what is the high school? I said, no. And they were saying, you know, they were giving me different people named that woman in high school. The 1994.
Pull that motherfucker over. I hear y'all motherfuckers trying to sell dope, man. Pull that motherfucker over. Ain't no selling no drugs in this motherfucker. Pull that bitch over, man. Pull that bitch over, man.
And so he was sacrificing his body, you know, to try to help his team and his teammates. So once you come back to this guy,
pull that motherfucker over. Alright, you gonna make me get on your ass now.
They ain't got nothing. He said, I know how it is when you ain't got nothing. He said,
bro, get your pussy.
Be in this position to help other people.
Get your pussy ass on, man.
But she says his legacy did only come through his four sons and his family. She offers this advice to other young individuals to be warriors on the field when it's been there. He pays the way. I said, so it's time for y'all to, you know, to move forward.
This pussy ass nigga think he getting away, y'all.
13 years.
He really think he getting away, y'all.
To Memphis, to Nashville.
I tell you, pull that motherfucker over.
It's been a long road.
Every time I tell nigga, pull that shit over, man. Go ahead and lay that shit down, man.
Myself with great people, great coaches, great teammates, you know, great family.
Nah, don't probably nigga my ass. I'm on your ass, bro.
You can almost overcome everything in life. And then when everywhere I go,
it's like got up out of there. So pussy ass up out of there, boy.
I enjoyed it. I can look back on it, reflect back on it, you know, and I wouldn't change a thing. The way I play the game, the way I approach the game, the love I have for the game, I wouldn't change that. I played the game with a lot of passion. I played the game with a lot of heart. And it showed over the course of my 13 years. Over 13 years, I had a lot of injuries because I played the game physical. Because I gave it 110% every game. Because if it was up by 30 or if it was down by 30, there's always that opportunity. I feel like, you know, me and my teammates and the coaching staff and the organization can make things happen. I always believe, regardless of what situation we was in. Over the course of my career, it's been ups and downs. In which I learned from the good, and I learned from the bad.
That's out, huh?
But coming out making this decision, it was a very difficult decision. It's hard. You know, especially when you're walking away from the game, and you know, in your mind, you feel like you can play, you still can compete. But when you're fighting that battle, you know, from your mind to your body, that those two is not on the same accord, it's not going to work in the National Football League. You know, your mind and your body got to be on the same page. My mind was there. Mentally, I could go out and play. But physically, I just couldn't do it anymore. Not to the capacity that I need to help my teammates win a football game. That's one reason this decision, it was a hard decision, but I think it's a good decision. Because I'm always a team player first. Come back and just relax. Enjoy it. Play around. Play track those sports and stuff that I just did when I was a kid. Like, you know, just sitting. That is home. They'll take care of you. Shoes on, yeah. You gotta take care of that. This farm is about 643 acres. Probably about 200 in pine trees, and the rest of it in grazeland for my animals. Small, see they been feeding pretty good. So what you got? Looking pretty good. Right now we got some hay to be moved and put in rows. So guys like this can stay healthy. Things that you have to do in a range. Just want to be the captain. And why say they see a record speed out of something. I'm moving to be back today. How you doing?
What's up, Carl?
You know, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good sight there. I like that.
I ain't got no coat. I got a result. So who the fuck is they running up on me like that, bro?
On the vehicle, charges are limited to appearance to drive.
Let's go to jail. Dang, bro. Damn. Uh, oh, I dropped the seat on this shit, bro. I can't get on my laptop and my shit, bro. This shit's stupid.
Steve McNair has committed an apparent shooting. We're still working out the details. Police say the former Baltimore Ravens Steve McNair was shot to death. He was found inside an apartment in Nashville, Tennessee. Let's get to recap at Fox 5's Dave Holtzwell hands to Otis. What do we know from this? This is a stunner in the sports world, especially when it involves a former NFL MVP. Steve McNair was a rare breed, a trendsetter of sorts for today's current signal callers. Today, he's gone at the age of 36. McNair and a woman were found dead inside a Nashville, Tennessee condominium. McNair died from a gunshot wound to the head. The woman's name has not yet been released by authorities, and no suspects are currently in custody. McNair played 13 years in the NFL, mostly in Tennessee, but played the final 2 years with the Ravens in Baltimore before retiring in April of 2008. Now, McNair's former owner in Tennessee, Bud Adams, said this today, quote, "He was one of the finest players to play for our organization and one of the most beloved players by our fans." Certainly more details to come in time concerning this story. Tom,
When police officers arrived in response to that call, they found two individuals who had been shot to death inside the residence. One female, one male. We now know that the male deceased is Steve McNair.
Police say the woman was not McNair's wife, Michelle. The scene of the shooting is within view of Titans Stadium, where McNair played most of his 13 seasons in the NFL. A police spokeswoman said that McNair was known to visit the condominium area, but didn't know if he was an owner. In fact, not much was known about the double killings early in the investigation.
It's going to take many hours to process the scene. I don't have any answers for you now as to what's happened, who's responsible, what the circumstances are.
McNair began his career in 1995 with the Houston Oilers, who eventually became the Titans. He was a double threat who could hurt opponents with his running as much as his passing. The three-time Pro Bowl quarterback had Tennessee within a yard of forcing overtime in the 2000 Super Bowl that they lost to St. Louis. McNair was so banged up at the end of the 2002 season he couldn't practice, but he guided the Titans to wins in the final 5 games, leading them to the AFC Championship game for the second time in 4 seasons. McNair threw for over 31,000 yards and 174 touchdowns in his career. He retired after the 2008 season.
Since the day of Steve McNair's murder, there have been dozens of unanswered questions. What was it that motivated his young lover, Sahel Kazemi, to kill him? Was the former Titan dating more than one woman? And what exactly did happen on July 4th, the day their bodies were found? Tonight, a newly released timeline gives us a much clearer picture of what happened, starting on July 2nd, the day of Kazemi's much-talked-about DUI arrest. Investigators have discovered that when Kazemi sat in a Metro jail cell, McNair went to the condo of 25-year-old Lee Ignati, the other woman police say he was apparently seeing. Though he was at Ignati's condo the morning of July 3rd, these text messages from McNair's phone to Kazemi's revealed that they were communicating into the wee hours of the morning. At 2:03 a.m., she says, "You love me?" A minute later, he responds, "I love you, baby." Kazemi then states, "I'm going to have all of you soon," to which McNair responds, "Yes, you will." Several hours later, those text messages resumed with Kazemi sending out a distress call. "Baby, I might have a breakdown. I'm so stressed."
Yeah, I like.
4 p.m. on July 3rd, Kazemi is asking McNair for $2,000, and he agrees to transfer funds into her account. At 1:15 a.m. July 4th, those text messages stop, with Kazemi stating the door to his condo is open. She was already waiting for him inside.
1 hour later, detectives arrived to collect evidence. This sketch shows they tore apart the couch looking for bullets, and we now know 2 rounds hit McNair and apparently went through the wall to the condo next door. You see, police removed portions of the drywall. It was obvious as we looked around, police dusted much of the condominium for fingerprints. They especially focused with heavy dust on the doors to the back porch and to the garage. The upstairs seems untouched by police. There was men's clothing in the closet and rap music playing quietly on a radio in the bedroom. In general, the apartment is very nondescript. No personal photos, with little to indicate who might live there. A rare personal touch was found in the kitchen. There was a pile of delivery menus and an envelope taped on the counter with a $20 bill tucked inside. Written on the front, the words, "Never broke." Now, as I looked around inside the condo, it was somewhat surprising that you found nothing to indicate that this was where Steve McNair, Titans star football quarterback, lived. No football, no helmets, no jersey. The only thing we found in one of the closets upstairs is several boxes of yellow Nike basketball shoes. But other than that, absolutely nothing with regard to his Titans career.
And inside there, somebody stayed there.
Keep in mind, for it, we don't know exactly what law enforcement took from the scene as evidence, but today I didn't see any sign, clothing or otherwise, that a woman ever spent much time inside this condominium. Live in downtown Nashville, Nick Barris reporting News Channel 5 HD.
My name is Reggie Aiken, and I'm here to bring you some information. Steve McNair, Sahil Kasemi case, which was in Nashville, Tennessee, back in July 4th of 2009. You know, the case was listed as a murder-suicide case, which is absolutely incorrect. What you are looking at here is a double homicide, and which I believe Steve McNair and Sahil Kasemi were both murdered. And the people involved here, the first person is John. He's involved here. They're in the apartment. That morning was Steve Murphy and Sister Kristen Murphy partying there. You have to remember, it's a party, when you're having a party and people are there. There was another guy there named Mark. He was there also with them. Now, there's items all around. There's items that are on the table and clean upstairs and downstairs. Now, my question is who cleaned up that apartment after this incident? If you notice in the pictures, the place was pretty clean, right? Now, I'm telling you, John instructed to clean this apartment.
Cut it.
Steve Murphy and his sister Kristen Murphy to clean that apartment.
I did that,
After the
man.
murders.
Go
And
ahead,
I'm telling
buddy.
you something. This is very important that the spokesman now, if you notice, was Don Air, which I'm telling you now is a corrupt.
One of the hands for you.
national
Haha, got it.
That's right.
Yeah,
Don Air
dude.
is a corrupt police officer.
20 bands for you.
Okay, and I'm going to let you see.
20 more bands for you. Run his ass up. What is more ass up?
Made all the more so by the person who is
20 bands for you. Oh, there go another 20 bands. 20 bands for you.
Suicide earlier this year. However, before that, he made 3 versions of this public service announcement for the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities.
Hi, I'm Steve McNair. You sign up people listening for tough times. Means you too many young people are taking their own lives.
Police say
20
McNair
bands
was
for
killed by this
you.
woman, who they say shot him 3 times as he slept here. This police in
And they got down lost 60,000 they quick.
Steve McNair was a homicide.
That nigga lost 60,000 quick, bitch.
McNair and his girlfriend were found
Oh,
shot
you
in
mad.
an apartment he owned with a friend. Police are trying to determine if the shootings were a murder-suicide. McNair was shot 4 times. His girlfriend...
Bullet to his head, now I know he did.
The family of Sahil Kazemi gathered at her parents' Orange Park home Sunday, and is where Kazemi had lived until 4 years
Bullet
ago.
to his head, now I know he did.
Kazemi's sister, Sabine Salmani, tells First Coast News her sister and Steve McNair were dating for 4 months. She says they were planning to move in together.
And they were going to move in together.
Somebody says that you met when Kazemi was a waitress at a Dave & Buster's and McNair was a customer. She says she has no idea what led up to the shooting, but says her sister would never hurt herself or anyone else.
Very pretty, very loving. She was a really person, outgoing, very sweet and very strong.
Somebody says her brother flew to Tennessee. She stayed in Orange Park to help her parents deal with the tragedy.
I always tried to stay here and take care of the family, take care of the
Was Adrian Gilliam a suspect in this case? And if so, was he eliminated? I think early on, anytime you have an investigation like this, you look at many
it. Now you know he did.
I think it'd be ridiculous not to look at him initially on, as well as many other people connected to the people involved. And he was one of the persons who looked at yesterday. What is he as a suspect? He was eliminated through smart investigation. Our investigation determined clearly that we were looking at a first suicide, not a double homicide.
Yeah, man, that ain't got nothing to say.
Emulate something like that.
Just to his head, now you know he did.
After nearly 4 days of intensive investigation, that includes laboratory test results and other investigative methods, the police department has concluded that Steve McNair was murdered by Sahil Kazemi, and that in turn, Sahil Kazemi killed herself with a single gunshot wound to her head. While we may never know exactly what drove Ms. Kazemi to make that decision on that Saturday morning,
Just to his head, now you know he did.
based upon the appearance of the crime scene, evidence collected, autopsy findings, laboratory results, and an incredible amount of work by our investigative
Just to his head, now you know
we
he
believe
did.
now at this time that McNair was seated on the sofa and likely was asleep. And we believe that Kazemi shot him in the right temple, then shot him twice in the chest, and then shot him a final time in the left temple.
Kazemi shot him in the right temple, twice in the chest, the final time.
Just to his head, now you know he did.
Science and the trajectory of the rounds and whatnot, it was pretty clear to us that he was seated in a particular
Hey, just chill out.
that killed himself and she slid down on Steve McNair's
Hey,
body.
fuck
All
on,
that
nigga.
was consistent with the evidence, and nothing to suggest
It's it.
it was a person in their
Sean, put your ass on it. What time is it?
homicide. Did we think initially that it could
Blow
be
your
a
ass
homicide?
up,
We
bitch.
did. Once we got into it, we were able to determine that it's not.
Just to his head, now you know he did.
Persons who had interest in Miss Kazemi, absolutely there were.
Yeah, that nigga mad as hell about that shit, Hey, I blew that nigga product up. That nigga blew 2 of my purses, but that's $20 a piece. And that nigga goddamn dropped his bike in the water. I know that nigga's annoying. I know that bitch big bad.
Right, I would say that's incorrect. No gunshot residue. Left hand did reflect some gunshot residue. To conclusively say that the TBI did.
Then positioned herself next to McNair on a sofa and shot herself once in the right temple and expired. Today we received preliminary information
That's why he ain't fucking with the police on his side.
5 shell casings recovered matched the weapon that was purchased by Kazemi last Thursday. That the 5 bullets have been recovered and they too were all fired by the barrel of that weapon. Gunshot residue evidence, trace evidence was found on Kazemi's left hand, not enough for a conclusive result. And there was no gunshot residue evidence on Mr. McNair's hands. Also, 5 to 7 days of Kazemi's life, our investigation is learning that she had become very distraught and on 2 occasions told friends and associates that her life was all messed up and that she was going to end it all. Ms. Kazemi had a vehicle that she owned. While the Escalade was purchased, we think with Mr. McNair, we believe she was paying payments on the Escalade. She was paying payments on a Kia, and her roommate was about to leave, which was going to effectively double her mortgage, her rent payment, I should say. We also have reason to believe that Kazumi recently learned before this day that she believed McNair was involved with another woman.
The regional news that's by the TVO. There was no chance to get rid of the police.
The language that they use inconclusive, but if you speak with the forensic scientists who did the examination, they'll tell you that there was evidence of gunshot residue on Miss Kazemi's left hand.
Can you explain the relationship between Adrian Gilliam Jr. and Miss Kazemi? She was very differently from Steve's casual relationship to 200 plus cell phone text messages, 49 text messages.
Oh, I get all that. Nothing you're saying escapes me. I understand everything you're saying. But none of it has anything to do with the actual event that occurred. Was Mr. Gilliam trying to have a relationship with Miss Kazemi? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Was he the one that went in there and killed the two and then made it look like a murder-suicide? No.
Mayor on News 5 is now drawing national attention.
Right, and now Kings Island is ripping out part of its Halloween fun even before it opened.
News 5's Karen Johnson live with the outrage from the tri-state all the way down to Tennessee. Hi, Karen.
Well, Tom, we were the first and only station to give you a sneak peek inside this year's Halloween haunt. But some of you weren't happy with some of the images from inside the park, and now Kings Island has taken down the display and is apologizing. It was intended to be a celebrity graveyard thrill. Stars like Michael Jackson in his PJs, Farrah Fawcett wearing a red tank, and Heath Ledger with pill vials, all rising from the dead. The display itself is dead.
And the pills, it's just how you drug use. And you have kids, you don't want to be really, aware that, they're celebrating this guy who died of drugs.
That's people having fun with Halloween, so I think, I really don't have a problem with that.
Earlier this week, Kings Island told me it was all in fun. The park meant no harm by the dead celebrities.
We're trying to raise the bar with what we're doing here and just make it a lot more intense, a lot scary, a lot more mortifying than before.
Some folks, especially those from Nashville, were a little too mortified by the display. Particularly this exhibit, which showed murdered Tennessee Titans Steve McNair and his girlfriend. They were sitting on a couch. She was in lingerie. He was wearing a number 9 jersey. A gun was at their feet.
I can understand Tombstone, it's a little more just tribute, but dressing them is, I think it's a little much.
Federal and local authorities working on the Steve McNair case have arrested a convicted murderer for allegedly providing the gun used to kill the former NFL quarterback. Police say Adrian Gilliam has confessed to selling a 9mm handgun to Sahil Kazemi just days before she shot McNair and then turned the gun on herself.
Mr. Gilliam gave some information to the agents, and after speaking with him, they did an intensive investigation of his background and determined that he had been convicted of attempted armed robbery and second-degree murder in the state of Florida.
Police said the gun, like this one here, was first sold at a pawn shop back in 2002. They say Gilliam then broke the law both when he bought it a year and a half ago and when he sold it to Kazemi on July 2nd.
A convicted felon cannot receive it, possess it, buy it, store it, hold it, shoot it, aim it, clean it. Can't do anything.
Authorities say he's not otherwise linked to the murder-suicide, but they add it is likely he'll be the only one to face any charges related to the murder of the former NFL MVP.
There's going to be a measure of justice in this case, and that involves this tragedy, and that measure of justice is going to be that the convicted felon who supplied the gun to Miss Kazemi is going to face justice.
Authorities say if convicted, Gilliam could be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison.
I spoke to the gentleman, Tony. I was her boss. I saw her then. She said she wasn't upset, she wasn't angry, she wasn't out of control. In fact, she was exactly the opposite. She just sat with the fact of the everything he said. It wasn't that she was angry or trying to start.
And I get that. We've also spoke to witnesses who have told us the exact opposite.
So, as far as the cell phone records, he spoke to her at 12:02 a.m. for 3 minutes. Are you able to determine the substance of that call?
No, he was probably 18 miles away from the scene when he had probably the same. I think he sent a text message 1:25 a.m. or somewhere in that range on July the 4th. In addition to follow-up text messages later in the day on the 4th, probably 1:30 or so, and then maybe later that night. And he was always never in the downtown area. Absolutely never in the downtown area, which would be typical if you're going to ping off a tower where the scene of the crime occurred. Closest he was probably 15 miles away.
The suspected murder like this.
still looking at 2 a.m. In the morning.
Right, approximately, yes.
So at about 1:30 of this text message on July 4th, cell phone towers in Ames.
Right, he's in the surrounding area. That's what area he was in.
Yeah,
He was hanging off of where he was basically most of that time.
I think I was just so, just abandoned. I felt angry.
And that's before it, so I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna live.
The family of Tennessee Titan great Steve McNair is suing.
That's right. His widow and 2 children say a television crew trespassed and invaded their privacy.
And as Nick Barris tells us, the family says they were then subjected to painful questions about the murder of the quarterback.
The McNairs filed this lawsuit here in civil court, alleging reckless and malicious conduct, and they say what was done was highly offensive. The lawsuit states that a crew from Crime Watch Daily, a syndicated program produced in Los Angeles, visited the McNair home back in August.
This is a lawsuit for damages. It's a tort lawsuit where the plaintiffs are seeking to recover for trespass and invasion of privacy and intentional infliction of emotional distress.
With cameras rolling at the front door, McNair's widow says the crew started asking intrusive questions of her regarding the death of her husband, Stephen McNair, and were persistent in attempting to bait Michelle McNair into discussing painful details of her husband's death in the presence of her minor children. Steve McNair, the former Titans great, was shot and killed by an alleged girlfriend, 20-year-old Sahil Kazemi, back in 2009. Metro police say it was a murder-suicide. But at the time, Vincent Hill, a private investigator, claimed that someone else was involved. He even wrote a book.
There's still hundreds of unanswered questions.
Back in 2010, Metro detectives debunked his theories.
And I can tell you most of that speculation innuendo was coming from Vincent Hill.
But Hill was with Crime Watch at the McNair home. He also is named in the lawsuit. Michelle McNair claims the crew refused to leave and maliciously suggested she was concealing the truth about the death of her husband, and her children had to endure the painful, untrue, and unwarranted verbal assaults regarding the death. Metro police say the murder case is long closed. The McNair's lawyer says the family just wants such hurtful questions and unwelcome visits to stop. Perhaps most important, the McNairs are asking the court to issue a permanent injunction banning the use of any of that video shot that day. In Nashville, Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
Now, we did reach out to Vincent Hill by phone to discuss his visit to the McNair home in just a few moments. They never went inside, and the questions were not malicious. We did not hear back from Crime Watch Daily.
Says neither he nor his older brother, Steve McNair Jr., was invited to their father's jersey retirement in Nashville. He says they are being shunned from his legacy. This is a story you'll only see here on 12 News. Jode Harris reports.
What's your father's name?
Steve McNair.
What's your name?
Stephen McNair.
The Tennessee Titans retired 2 jerseys Sunday, number 27 for running back Danny George, and number 9 for the late Steve McNair. McNair started for the Titans following a